Look, Marcus Webb had survived worse than a minor collision between his freight hauler and a rogue cargo pod. Way worse. Like that time in college when he'd tried to impress a girl by jumping off a second-story balcony into a pool and missed. But the insurance company insisted on a full medical scan before they'd clear him for duty again, and who was he to argue with bureaucracy? That's how he ended up on Terminus 7, lying on a medical platform that hummed like a refrigerator, having an existential crisis, while Dr. Velnick peered at him with 4 of his 6 eyes. The other 2 were focused on a holographic display that showed Marcus's insides in uncomfortable detail. "This is entirely routine, human Marcus," Velnick said, his tentacles typing commands across 3 different keyboards simultaneously. "Show off." "The scanner will map your skeletal structure, organs, and neural pathways. Should take approximately 4 minutes. Try not to move." "Don't worry, Doc. I'm great at lying still. I once napped through a fire drill." Velnick's central eye twitched. The Kixarian had that look that Marcus had seen on a lot of alien faces. The look that said they couldn't quite tell if humans were joking or genuinely insane. Usually the answer was both. The scanner began its descent, bathing Marcus in a pale blue light. It started at his head, and Marcus watched the hologram populate with data. Skull check. Brain check. Slightly concerning amount of scar tissue in the frontal lobe, but that was probably from the balcony incident. Or the other balcony incident. There had been a few. "Cervical vertebrae appear normal," Velnick muttered. "Continuing scan." The scanner hummed along, mapping ribs that had definitely been broken at least twice, a liver that was apparently remarkably resilient, according to Velnick's increasingly interested commentary, and lungs that looked fine, despite that year Marcus had tried to become a competitive eater. Then the scanner reached his spine, and stopped. The humming turned into a grinding noise that sounded like someone was torturing a mechanical cat. The hologram flickered. Error messages started cascading across every display in the room like a digital waterfall of failure. "What did you do?" Velnick demanded, all 6 eyes now locked on Marcus. "I'm literally just lying here, Doc. This is on you and your fancy broken equipment." Velnick's tentacles flew across the keyboards, his skin shifting from calm blue to agitated purple. "The scanner is not broken. It has successfully mapped over 14,000 species. It does not simply stop working." "Well, congratulations. I'm apparently number 14,001. The doctor rebooted the system. The scanner started again from the top, zipped through everything it had already mapped, and then hit Marcus's spine like a car hitting a brick wall. Same grinding noise. Same cascade of errors. Same look of disbelief on Velnick's face. "This is impossible," Velnick whispered. "Story of my life, Doc. Story of my life." Part 2. The Impossible Biology. 20 minutes later, Marcus was still on the table, and Velnick had called for backup. Dr. Renna Fost materialized through the doorway, her crystalline body refracting the medical bay's lights into little rainbows that danced across the walls. She was a Lithian, which meant she was basically a very smart, very judgmental walking gemstone. "You interrupted my lunch for a scanner malfunction." Her voice chimed like wind through crystal caves. "It is not a malfunction. Watch." Velnick ran the scan again. Marcus was getting pretty comfortable at this point. He'd found that if he tilted his head just right, he could see his reflection in one of the monitors. The scanner stopped at his spine. Error messages everywhere. Renna's facets shifted in what Marcus had learned was the Lithian equivalent of a raised eyebrow. "Huh, that's new. See? This is unprecedented. Let's try the Kepler-7 scanner. It can map diamond at the molecular level." They wheeled over a machine that looked like it cost more than Marcus's ship. This scanner got 3 vertebrae further before it gave up and started displaying what Marcus was pretty sure was the alien equivalent of a sad face emoji. "Okay," Renna said slowly. "Let's try the resonance imager." The resonance imager lasted about 45 seconds. Marcus decided to be helpful. "You know, I did fall off a cliff once. Maybe that's got something to do with it?" Both doctors turned to look at him. "You fell off a cliff," Velnick repeated. "Yeah, hiking accident when I was 19. Dropped about 30 feet onto rocks. Broke my back in 2 places, shattered my left leg. It was a whole thing." Rena's crystalline structure literally flickered. You broke your back and survived? Well, yeah, I mean, it sucked. Took like 6 months to fully recover, but I'm fine now, obviously. 6 months, Velnik whispered. He pulled up Marcus's medical history, which apparently had been uploaded when he'd checked in. His skin went from purple to a shade that Marcus didn't have a name for. Maybe, oh no, white, or what have I done, gray. Human Marcus, according to this file, you have experienced 17 separate incidents that resulted in major skeletal damage. Sounds about right. I'm kind of clumsy. Clumsy? Clumsy? You were in a vehicle collision at age 12 that collapsed your rib cage? Oh yeah, that one hurt. But kids bounce back pretty fast, you know. Rena was now scrolling through the file herself. At age 7, you fractured your skull falling from a tree. At 16, you broke both arms in a, skateboarding accident. At 23, you suffered severe spinal trauma. Age 27, crushed pelvis. Age 30, multiple rib fractures. Human Marcus, each of these injuries should have resulted in permanent disability or death. But they didn't, Marcus pointed out cheerfully. Modern medicine is pretty great. That's not... Velnik stopped, tentacles hovering over the keyboard. Rena, look at this. She leaned over the display. Is that bone density measurement correct? I've checked it 4 times. That can't be right. His bones are denser than some ship hulls. Marcus shrugged, which was a mistake because it made several monitors beep in alarm. My doctor back on Earth said something about how bones get stronger when they heal. Like, the calcium deposits are denser at the fracture sites? I don't know, I wasn't really paying attention. She said something about my skeleton being like 50% scar tissue at this point. Your grandmother, Velnik said faintly, reading further. Your grandmother had a hip replacement at age 89 and was dancing at a wedding 3 weeks later. Yeah, Grandma Kate was a tough lady, lived to be 104, drove herself to the hospital when she had her heart attack. Both doctors stared at him. What? She didn't want to bother the ambulance people. Rena decided they were going to do this the old-fashioned way, which apparently meant manual examinations, because scanning technology had officially given up on understanding Marcus's spine. I'm going to perform a cellular analysis of your immune system, she announced, producing a device that looked like a very angry syringe. Sure, go ahead. I'm not squeamish about needles. She took a blood sample, ran it through an analyzer that made concerning whirring noises, and then went very still. For a Lithian, that was like a human starting to scream. Velnik, look at this lymphocyte structure, the Kixarian slithered over. Those are memory cells. I know they're memory cells, but there are thousands of unique pathogen markers stored here, thousands. The human immune system has catalogued every single disease he's ever been exposed to and maintained active response templates. That's normal though, right? Marcus asked. Like that's what vaccines do. Vaccines introduce a controlled pathogen to create memory cells for one disease, Rena explained, her voice climbing an octave. You have memory cells for approximately 4,200 distinct pathogens. Some of these don't even have a classification in the galactic database. Oh well, I did spend a year working on a mining colony with really bad air filtration. Got sick a lot that year. Got sick a lot and lived, Velnik corrected. Any other species would have died from the 3rd infection. They moved on to muscle tissue analysis. That went about as well as the bone density scans. His muscle fibers show signs of repeated micro-tearing and regeneration, Rena reported, but each regeneration cycle appears to have resulted in slightly improved tensile strength. That's just working out, Marcus said. You tear the muscle, it heals bigger. That's how you get gains, Doc. That is not how other species' muscles work. Velnik's tentacles were starting to knot together in distress. Our muscles have a fixed maximum development threshold. Huh, that sucks for you guys. The examination continued, and Marcus watched 2 highly trained medical professionals slowly descend into madness. They discovered that his liver showed signs of having processed toxins that should have been fatal. His appendix had apparently ruptured at some point and somehow sealed itself. Wait, when did your appendix rupture? Rena demanded. Oh, probably that camping trip 5 years ago? I felt really weird for a few days. Had a fever, but I was in the middle of nowhere, so I just toughed it out. Figured it was food poisoning. You had a ruptured appendix and thought it was food poisoning. In my defense, I'd eaten some questionable jerky. Velnik had pulled up a chair. Well, he'd pulled up a rest platform designed for beings with tentacles, but same concept. He looked defeated. Rena, I have spent 8 years studying medicine. I have 3 advanced degrees. I have successfully treated over 100 different species. And this human is sitting here telling me he survived a ruptured appendix because he thought it was bad jerky. Yeah, welcome to my afternoon, Rena chimed back. So am I cleared to fly or what? Marcus asked. Because I've got a delivery run scheduled for tomorrow. Both doctors looked at him. Absolutely not, Velnik said. We are not done here, not even close. Rena decided that if Marcus's biology was going to make no sense, the least they could do was check if other humans were equally impossible. She pulled up the Galactic Medical Database and filtered for human patients. The results were not encouraging. For medical science, anyway. For Marcus's argument that he should be cleared to fly, they were great. Okay, here's an interesting case, Rena said, scrolling through files. Human designated Yuki Tanaka was exposed to vacuum for 43 seconds when their suit malfunctioned. Survived with minor tissue damage. Minor? Velnik's skin had gone through the entire color spectrum and was now settling on a defeated beige. Vacuum exposure is fatal at 15 seconds for most species. It says here she described the experience as very unpleasant and was back to work within a week. See, Marcus said. We're tough. It's a whole thing. Here's another one. Human James Patterson walked 12 miles on a fractured femur to reach a communication station after his transport crashed. 12 miles, on a broken leg bone. The femur, Rena. The femur is the longest and strongest bone in most humanoid species. I know what a femur is, Velnik. Just making sure because apparently nothing makes sense anymore. They scrolled further. The files got worse, or better depending on your perspective. There was the human who'd survived a fall from low orbit with only a broken arm. The human who'd been clinically dead for 6 minutes before self-resuscitation. The one who'd been impaled by a metal rod and pulled it out herself to drive to the hospital. Then Rena found the file labeled Rasputin Incident. What's this? It's flagged as probable data corruption, Marcus perked up. Oh, I know about Rasputin. We learned about him in history class. Dude was impossible to kill. Elaborate, Velnik demanded. So this was back on Earth, like 400 years ago. This guy survived being poisoned, shot multiple times, and then they threw him in a frozen river and he still took a while to actually die. People thought he was like a demon or something, but he was just Russian. Just Russian, Rena repeated slowly. It's a geographic designation on Earth. They're known for being really tough. Something about the climate and the history of constant invasion. Natural selection was pretty brutal there. Velnik was now rocking back and forth on his rest platform. I need to understand. Explain to me how humans evolved to be this resilient. Oh, that's easy. Earth tried to kill us for like 2 million years and we got stubborn about it. Earth tried to kill you. Yeah, the planet's kind of a nightmare. We've got predators that can smell blood from miles away. Diseases that evolve faster than we can cure them. Weather patterns that can level entire cities. Tectonic activity. Radiation exposure. Food sources that are often poisonous until you cook them properly, and about 1,000 other things that want us dead. And you just kept living there. Where else were we going to go? We didn't have spaceships yet. Rena pulled up another file. It says here that humans evolved a stress response that temporarily increases muscle performance and suppresses pain response. Oh yeah, adrenaline. That stuff's great in a crisis. Great in a... Velnik couldn't finish the sentence. Your species developed a chemical that makes you stronger and reduces your ability to feel pain during dangerous situations. Yeah, it's like a built-in emergency mode. Super useful. There's this old story about a woman who lifted a car off her kid because of adrenaline. Lifted. A car. I mean, cars were lighter back then, but yeah. Rena was still reading. Human pain tolerance is estimated at 400%, above the galactic average. 400%, Velnik. I'm starting to understand why they're classified as a Class 7 survival species, Velnik muttered. Wait, we're a Class 7? Marcus asked. What does that mean? It means, Rena said carefully, that the Galactic Council recognizes humans as one of the most biologically resilient species in known space. You're in the same category as silicon-based life forms and species that evolved in radioactive environments. Huh, cool. Cool, he says. Cool. The medical bay doors hissed open, and Station Commander Torlix stomped in on his 4 legs, all 4 of his eyes narrowed in irritation. The Brentaki looked like someone had crossed a bear with a grasshopper and given it a military uniform. Why is this medical bay locked down? I've got 17 ships waiting for crew clearances, and you 2 are in here having some kind of crisis. Commander, Velnik said weakly, we have a situation. What kind of situation? The kind where we've discovered that humans are biological extremophiles and possibly shouldn't be allowed to exist under the normal laws of physics. Torlix looked at Marcus, who waved. Then back at Velnik. Explain. So they did. They showed him the scan failures, the medical history, the database files, all of it. Torlix's expression went from annoyed to concerned to horrified to something that might have been existential dread. Let me see if I understand this correctly, Torlix said slowly. Humans evolved on a planet so dangerous that their bodies developed multiple redundant survival systems. The ability to repair and upgrade their own skeletal structure, an immune system with perfect pathogenic memory, a stress response that makes them stronger when threatened, and pain tolerance that exceeds most species' maximums by a factor of 4. That's the summary, yes, Rena confirmed, and they just walk around like this is normal. To be fair, Marcus interjected, we didn't know it wasn't normal until we met you guys. We thought everyone was like this. You thought everyone could survive falling off cliffs and having their organs rupture? I mean, yeah? What else are you gonna do? Die about it? Torlix sat down heavily. How many humans are currently employed on this station? 47, Rena said, checking her tablet. And how many are working in hazardous environments? All of them. Humans volunteer for the dangerous jobs because they pay better. Of course they do. Of course. Torlix rubbed his face with 2 of his 4 hands. They're working in reactor maintenance, in the 0G construction zones, in the asteroid belt mining operations, jobs that we give hazard pay for, because they're legitimately dangerous. I mean, they're not that dangerous, Marcus said. A Kixarian died in Reactor 3 last year from radiation exposure. Well, yeah, but you guys don't have the same kind of cellular regeneration we do. Plus, our melanin helps with radiation absorption. We basically evolved to handle solar radiation because our sun is kind of aggressive. Your sun is kind of aggressive, Velnik repeated in a dead voice. Also, Marcus continued, Earth's background radiation is higher than most garden worlds because of our magnetic field fluctuations and the fact that we used to set off nuclear weapons for fun. Well, not for fun, for war, and then for testing, and that one time for mining. Look, we made some questionable choices as a species, but it did give us a decent radiation tolerance. Torlix pulled up a data file. According to this, the standard safety protocols for human workers are 30% less stringent than for other species. That's because we kept filing complaints that the safety equipment was too restrictive, Marcus explained. The radiation suits made it hard to move, and honestly, we weren't getting that much exposure anyway. I need a drink, Torlix announced. A very strong drink, possibly several. So can I go? Marcus asked hopefully. Absolutely not. We still haven't figured out why the scanner stops at your spine. Oh, that's easy, Marcus said. My bone density is too high. The scanner probably has a maximum threshold for skeletal density, and my spine exceeds it because of all the calcium deposits from old fractures. It's like trying to scan solid metal. Everyone stared at him. You knew this entire time? Velnik asked. I mean, I figured it out about an hour ago when you mentioned the density readings. It's not complicated. My spine is basically reinforced bone at this point. Your spine is reinforced bone. Yeah, it's pretty common for humans who've had spinal injuries. The bone heals denser and stronger than before. It's why professional athletes can come back from broken bones and still compete. Sometimes they're even better after healing. Rena made a noise that her translator couldn't quite process. This is insane. Your species is insane. We prefer adaptable. No, Torlix said firmly. No, you're insane. You're all insane. No. You come from a death world that spent millions of years trying to murder you, and instead of dying like reasonable beings, you just got tougher and decided that was normal. When you put it that way, it does sound kind of weird, Marcus admitted. Kind of? Kind of? 2 hours, 3 medical review boards, and 1 minor existential crisis later, Dr. Velnick officially signed Marcus's clearance forms. The paperwork included a new designation that had been created on the spot: Alpha Survivor Status. What does that mean? Marcus asked, reading the form. It means, Velnick explained tiredly, that we are officially acknowledging that standard medical scanning procedures are inadequate for humans. Any human patient will now be flagged in the system as an alpha survivor, which tells medical staff that baseline comparisons are essentially meaningless and that we should just ask you how you're feeling instead. So, basically, you're giving up on understanding us. We prefer to think of it as acknowledging our limitations. Renner handed him a data chip. This contains your full medical report. Try not to add to it. No promises, Doc. Life's an adventure. That's what I'm afraid of, she chimed. Marcus stood up, stretched, and was pleased to note that nothing beeped an alarm this time. Well, thanks for the workout, folks. This was fun. Fun, Velnick muttered. He calls it fun. Before you go, Torlik said, what exactly is your next assignment? Oh, I'm running freight through the Kessler Belt. Should be a quick trip, just dodging some asteroids, standard stuff. The Kessler Belt has a ship damage rate of 37%. Yeah, but that's mostly minor hull breaches and sensor damage. I've done the run like a dozen times. Of course you have. Marcus headed for the door, then paused. Hey, since I'm apparently such an interesting case, do I get a discount on the medical scan? Get out! All 3 doctors said in unison. Laughing, Marcus left the medical bay. Behind him, he heard Velnick ordering something strong from the station bar. Do you think we should warn the Galactic Council about this? Renna asked. About what? That humans are walking biological impossibilities? I think they know. Why do you think human mercenary companies are so popular? Fair point. Torlix pulled up the station roster, looking at all the human names. I'm going to have to revise every safety protocol we have, aren't I? Probably, Velnick agreed, though I suspect the humans will just ignore them anyway. Also probably true. They stood in silence for a moment, contemplating a galaxy where humans existed and apparently thrived in conditions that would kill most other species. The silence was broken by an alarm. What now? Torlix groaned. Incoming patient, Renna reported, checking her display. Human, survived a hull breach in Docking Bay 7, minor injuries. Velnick's skin cycled through several colors before settling on resigned gray. Get me the reinforced scanner. We don't have a reinforced scanner. Then get me whatever scanner is least likely to give up immediately. And someone order me something to drink, something strong. I'll get you 2 somethings, Torlix said, already heading for the door. I have a feeling this is going to become a regular occurrence. As the station commander left, another human was wheeled in on a gurney, conscious and apologizing to the medical team for the inconvenience. She had apparently been outside the station during the hull breach, her suit had malfunctioned, and she'd managed to manually seal the leak using duct tape and sheer determination. It's really not that big a deal, she was saying. I just need a pressure check and maybe something for this headache. Velnick looked at Renna. Renna looked at Velnick. I'm calling in sick tomorrow, Velnick announced. You never call in sick. I'm making an exception, for my sanity. The human patient noticed them and waved. Hey, are you the docs who just examined Marcus Webb? He messaged me that you guys were really thorough. I appreciate the attention to detail. Thorough, Renna repeated. Yes, that's what we're known for, thoroughness. As they began the examination, knowing full well that it would probably reveal another dozen impossible features of human biology, Velnick made a mental note to update his resume. Maybe he'd look into studying silicon-based life forms. They, at least, had the decency to make sense. But probably not. Because as terrifying as humans were from a medical standpoint, they tipped really well and never complained about wait times. And in the end, that was what really mattered in station medicine. Well, that and keeping enough strong drinks on hand to deal with the existential crises.